Ion lightsaber. Uses light.
No.
Ion.
When did you decide that you couldn't say light?
Well,
In
do
the
something that sounds like iron. Do something that sounds like light. I mean, kicks a rock.
lightsaber's one word.
Ion lightsaber.
It works.
Think about it.
You could use light switch is fair game. I feel like even that's two words.
I wouldn't. I don't know what ions are. I'm gonna level with you, Jim. It's like if a molecule was like too negative, like slightly too negative, like it's missing one proton or it has an extra electron, then it's I don't know for sure, but I'm sure lightsabers use them.
These little rules that we create for ourselves in our own little games.
Right.
I hope that you don't lose any sleep over the lightsaber thing.
Oh, I thought you meant with the rules we make for ourselves as chemistry. I was gonna be like, well, I mean, there's that's got a little more foundation. You hope.
Yeah. Shout out Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Cosmos.
For Cosmos, but his precursor for the Cosmos. The Cosmos were not originally a Neil deGrasse Tyson thing. Those were yeah.
The other guy, the dude who I love and whose voice sounds exactly like this. Why can I not remember his name? Carl Sagan.
Carl Sagan, baby. Boom. Carl Sagan. My God.
Carl's again. Oh shit! I didn't set my timer. We'll call that. It's been. We'll say 57 minutes.
Until you get a funky transmission. We'll take that out in post. Not until you get a sexy transition do we get to leave our intro conversation.
Yeah, you better leave that in, buddy.
Jehovah.
Do you wanna? I don't know. You look. It looks like I dug you out of Plymouth, Massachusetts, and reanimated you.
It's Passover
right now. Oh,
first day of Passover. We're recording this. This is March 15th. The Ides of March as well.
Is L'chaim appropriate to say?
L'chaim
on an occasion like this?
Definitely. That's it. To life.
No, L'chaim means good luck.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
It means to life, right? Like you cheered to life. Shout out in the comments if you speak Hebrew.
Speaking of made-up languages like Hebrew, all languages are made up, JoJo. Come on, it's 2022.
It's like saying chemistry is made up as well. Like, yeah, it's just some of them have more foundation.
That's some beef I've got with Pragasphar. Is you made up these languages specific to each continent, and I was like, Cal's gonna speak all of them, but we never figured out.
I totally
there was never really a moment where there was lost in translation. There was stuff lost in translation, save for like the first third of the campaign.
I singularly blame
Sarah Strathian.
I singularly blame Max Baragon Emberclaw for changing what the scope of my world was going to encompass. I knew very early on that I wasn't teaching a high school class, I was teaching a middle school class. You know, like we had to cut off some of the fat. And I'm glad we did. It's been fun.
When did Baragon deattune to the staff? Did he ever lose the language?
Not once since having it, I don't think. Maybe passing it off to Revelia for a moment.
He's like,
regardless.
God, I would have loved to see what would have happened if he kept all those relics. Speaking of keeping all those relics,
good job.
We have to face up to the great cataclysmic reunion of the FBI. JoJo, do you care to navigate cautiously into those unsteady waters?
Yep, let's get into it. Everybody just had their one-shots. Clay and Cal died, the party split up, and everyone, through some stroke of afterlife, action, reunion, travel, they were crazy stories. They all led everyone back to Mount Moracas. Moracas, the namesake of the god Kestrel, the highest peak in the Trailwire Expanse, and the resting place of the third duality weapon, Rosenreach, the Heavenward. which was the name of this episode. This was episode 18. Rosen reached the Heaven Ward.
Did the other relics have little titles like the Heaven Ward? I don't think.
Yeah.
Oh, the Dust Flash. Sure. Yeah. Whatever. All right. I wanted to feel
Star
special.
Pillar. Star Pillar and Dust Flash.
Oh, that's killer.
It's just extra. It's so me. So we open on Prince Parlous, actually. There was a cutscene to start off this episode. And we see Prince Parlous ruminating, just pacing back and forth in the glass-bottomed room in his airship, thinking about the blow that was landed on him in the war recently. It's the first hit that's ever struck him in his 16 years as a ruler, right? Because he keeps these precogs, 3 of them, with him all the time. And if there's any threat to his person, he's got so many potential ways out on top of his already astonishing dexterity, right? So this is the first time he's ever been hit, and he's going insane about it. He comes to the conclusion, and the party did not find out, and will never find out whether there's any merit to this or not. He comes to the conclusion that one of his truth seers, one of his future seers, has lied to him. And so he turns, singles the one out that he trusts the least, suspects of this false vision, and draws his sword and moves to kill them, giving a little monologue about their betrayal. And Talus was the name of this precog, named after my first D&D character. I mentioned it only in passing. Talus, seeing Parlous coming for her, plays through a million different futures in her head. Does she run to the person on her left, to the person on her right? Does she try to get out the door? Does she try to break through the window? And every single future she sees, Parlous' saber cutting through her. So she falls hopeless and is cut down. Little time skip, Prince Parlous gets out of the airship, and we find out that he was not flying it as he told the party he would, as he told Baragon he would. He was not flying it to Arkancelis to save the city from Tiamat. He was flying it the opposite direction, getting away from the dragon, letting Tiamat run rampant towards the city, unless the party stops it, and going to the grave of his father, where he stops and he speaks about Baragon Emberclaw. And as he describes Baragon comes into frame. This is where we start with the party. Parlous describes him as literally head and shoulders above all men, foremost in pride since he hails from one, like describing him in all of these grandiose terms. And we see Cal Reverie looking up from the meteorite shard where he sits paralyzed in front of the third duality weapon, and Baragon, as described, looks down upon him. The two of them meet at the peak of the mountain. The tension was on. I mean, the heat was there. I thought for sure that Baragon was going to play Cal here. And Cal, you opened the door for him too. Like, the door was swinging wide open. Because Baragon can see Cal is stuck between 2 images. One of the duality weapon, and one of his father fighting Angel. His father overtaken by the Lonely, about to kill Angel. And Cal doesn't know which way to go. Baragon arrives and knows that the Lonely is not a threat anymore. He's just handled that with Arkancelis. That is what they were just doing in his one shot. So Baragon has the chance to deceive Cal, send him into the right one, and get the third duality weapon. Baragon, who already has the whip on him as well. He has 2 of the 3, because Clay died and left it in the plains.
As well as the gun.
Yeah, as well as the gun, and as far as you knew, the book, but Arkancelis had already swiped it off of him. So Baragon's got like 3 of the 4 pieces of total control that he needs right here. And he doesn't go for it, but he kind of gets it anyways. He jumps down, he resets, he starts playing nice, he goes for the hand clasp with Cal, and you guys had a nice little reunion moment. And then you chose to go towards your father and Angel. Baragon didn't step forward to tell you that that vision was false. But I think that might have been Max really wanting to see the new item. That might have also been Max not realizing what was happening, like genuinely missing a beat. I'm not sure to this day. But regardless, you go that way. You appear 50 feet behind him on the rock. Baragon steps through, the portal closes, picks up the shield. And all 3 duality weapons are awakened and are wielded by Baragon Emberclaw. So he's got it. He unlocks a bajillion new powers. He starts to fly. He starts to glow. It's excessive. He becomes, in effect, God Emperor, right? Like, this dude's just overflowing. Yeah. Oh, and then shortly after that, shout out, Claymore Patch falls from the sky. He had teleported with the cloak that he just got off Urkling, who he just killed. He had teleported himself and his sisters. But Trellwire is really weird with teleportation and magic in general. So he literally overshot the place by like 200 feet and free fell out of the sky. So Cal had this badass little like parkouring off the mountain, like casting Featherfall with the staff to make like mountainsides and stuff.
He Pegasused.
You Pegasus.
Pegasused
That was it too.
over to them to get in range. Started free falling with them. And then, oh my god, the staff of the Granite Peaks, man!
Dude, you make
one
it
of the best
cool.
magical weapons.
Literally, you've used like none of its super powerful abilities, but you make it look so smooth. Whatever you do,
I don't care about the super powerful ability.
Like Cal will be falling and like stamp it into a ground that isn't there, and for just like a split second, an illusory mountain appears, and he like gets his footing on it to cast Featherfall. So badass. So, you guys fly back to town on Pegasus Cal. He can transform into one now. Don't worry about it. Just things you pick up being reborn.
Yeah.
And Baragon flies back himself, since he can just do that now. And the party meets back up in Cal's hometown.
We picked up Dad and Angel as well.
Yep, who Baragon had brought there, right? Before abandoning his Volstruckers and Arkancelis and all them. So everybody's back with the stock of reverie. You're back in Cal's hometown. And it's a nice little domestic scene for a while. Rogadian comes back out. So much fun to roleplay. Like, he's my favorite NPC voice from the whole campaign. So just having him back around was cool. Clay's sisters are there. They're mingling with Cal's people. Cal's father, gets to actually drop a few lines, gets to hang out a little bit. And the bulk of this episode was spent in that camp with Baragon, with all three people in his head. All the alternative player characters, right? So
Arlo played that so well, man.
Yeah, it was amazing. So Baragon's like isolating himself. He's sitting by a fire. He's walking on the outskirts of camp, and he's arguing with these three voices in his head. We learn he's still playing Clay and Cal. His kinship with them is faked right now because he alleges that this is one of Arkancelis's tricks. That ever since Arkancelis brought him to Trellwire, he's in another illusory world. Which actually happened to the three people in his head. So they can sympathize with it quite a bit. Mislin's on board. Savero's on board. Savero, played by Max himself, is kind of a freebie. Arlo Fix is the one who's just so uncertain and so skeptical and so doubting. So Baragon's like using the other two people in his head, using these arguments from power to try and persuade Arlo Fix. And it's just this cool, ominous dialogue. It was a sweet role-playing scene. I loved it. We had a good time with the stock of reverie.
Angel popping out. Oh my god.
While Baragon's off doing this, to Clay and Cal, Angel shows up and says to Cal that Baragon, who's been acting super nice and himself as they knew him since the start of this episode, he says Baragon, when you two were gone, was different. Like, something is wrong with him. Like, he was using people. He was really willing to hurt people. Like, he's got this fiery, deadly ambition, and he's been threatening Angel under the surface the entire time. Angel says, former Drizdoord and Angel says, I can't take this. I gotta go. Right? Like, he's got the gun with my name on it. He's off his rocker. I don't trust him. Good luck, guys. And he dips. Like, without having a conversation.
Man. It broke Cal's heart, and I don't think there could have been anything that Baragon could have said or done that would have made Cal really start to dig into what was going on with him. But what happened with Angel, that was scary.
So that tension is really heavy over the party. By the time the episode ends, Baragon, now again, we don't know, is this Baragon as Max lying to the people in his head? Does he know this is Clay and Cal? He just needs to get them on his side so he can justify his using of them to get to power. Or does Baragon genuinely believe that maybe he's in a simulation, right? And is this terror real? We have no idea how many layers deep he is, but the episode ends that way. The party say all of their goodbyes. We're going into the end game. The next 3 sessions will be 3 big final fights, and then the campaign will end. So We say goodbye to the sisters. We say goodbye to Regadian. We say goodbye to Angel. We say goodbye to Father Teacher and Mother Teacher. And the party leaves.
And Dr. Patch visits one Prince Parlous in a dream.
And Claymore Patch casts Dream and gives a nightmare to Prince Parlous, causing him to lose his night's sleep, deal a little chunk of damage to him, and make him replay his own death over and over in his head. This wasn't purely out of malice, but the party had figured out, long since, that Parlous only has the interests of Nyxfer at heart. But that was the session. That was seriously it. We're in this situation now, going into next session, where the party has all of their endgame weapons, assuming Baragon redistributes the dualities, as he has not yet. But assuming they do, that he does, we've got endgame weapons, endgame levels, the ability to teleport, and 3 big cities, all of which are in a situation right now, right? Putting up with some kind of crisis.
Baragon's the 3 dualities are tearing up Baragon's mind and body. Terrible.
Oh, as well, once re-meeting, the party discovers the bond abilities are all new. So there are some sweet new bond abilities that got to roll out. I don't know if we really tried them out this session. You learned about them this session, but next session is when they shown. So that's DMing it, super hands-off session. I didn't roll 1 die the entire time. It was super roleplay heavy.
Except for, oh man, when... Oh no, that was the next morning. That was the next morning with the deception check. The only one Cal's had to roll this game.
Yeah, right. And he screws it up, and that'll start next session. Is the party will wake up and will leave, and will decide where to teleport in this end game, and we know they will choose Eriswile. So it was a lot of fun. It was a super hands-off session for me, but just so tense and so dramatic. And Baragon, this was his moment, right? Like this was all him with the duality weapons in his head. Super awesome roleplay from all 3, even when they weren't their own characters. And this is it, folks. This is how she ends.
Whew. Baragon promised Arlo Fix whatever he wanted. And oh man, he made some big promises. And Cal caught himself fibbing to Baragon. It was a bummer. You know, Cal was trying to talk to Patch about how nervous all this made him. Angel skipping town. And it did nothing to reassure Baragon when he saw right through the ruse. We didn't talk about this, but Cal's not a charisma character, just by virtue of stats. We'll talk about that in the post interview. Let me write that down.
Sure. No, that was good. Definitely when Cal tried to communicate subtly with Patch and Baragon picked up on it, it did not help you guys look good in his eyes.
Did not bode
like
well.
it was a big fuck up. So next session, that's gonna come to a head, and we're gonna see if the party can regain enough trust to face the end together, or if they're gonna have cracks in them that are torn open wider by these final fights.
Well, speaking of trust, Kartikeya and his counterparts, his siblings, are in a great, very tense moment, confronting the potential corruption of their adopted father, Shrek. But this session begins with a cutscene. Just like JoJo's does.
Is this when you started doing cutscenes, or is there a precedent?
No, I forget to mention them every time we've done Ironlights. They'll come up. I don't know. I'm not too hot about it. But
sure.
We return to Riverwood, the next to the Chorus Reservoir, Crust's hometown, the one that was devastated when the Orcish Titans, the King's Elect, came to collect the son, the crown prince of the Iron Tribe. The people are picking up the pieces. They are. It follows this little furball boy who's really sad because he knows that things are changing, and he's not sure why. He just knows that all the things that he got used to and all the people in the village were saying their goodbyes. to the forest, the Grendiake, the great Holy Spirit forest, the waters. Or at least that's what he thought. At least he thought they were saying goodbye to the forest. They were saying goodbye to this place. And he came to his father, and he asked him why they had to leave this place. The village had come to a decision. They decided that it was time to move on, move forward, go, depart, create something new. And his father reassures him. This is the uncle. This kid's uncle is the medic, the town medic. God, I forget his name. I named him after a dark liquor. I know, but I can't remember. Jameson. That's what I named him. Jameson.
That's a good name for a doctor.
The grumbly. Oh man, there's just so much to take care of. And
he's an asshole, but he's just too damn good.
Well, I just gotta patch these people up, and we'll just get going. You know, it's just too much trouble. This guy stopped Crust. He was the one person left in the face of all these titans that stepped up and asked Crust what to do with the pieces, and Crust said, pick them up and make do. And so the village leaves behind most of their earthly belongings and goes to move down the river. And the forest, the treants, the living forest, uprooted themselves and joined the sides of the village to find a new home. And the Riverwood people and the Grendiake became one, and they became nomadic. This is an interesting development mechanically, because Crust is going to Crust's abilities as the Oakenshield, the protector of Riverwood, are only there. He's very powerful, but he's even more powerful so long as he's within the borders of Riverwood. And now that they're nomadic, maybe they can come to him in a time of need. But when he's in Riverwood proper, he can summon some treant beasts, these crazy warrior tanks that are trees, like 3 of them or 2, I forget how many. He can ride them, and
what?
It's insane. He also he has. I mean, there's some other stuff with like his strength. His stats become just insane so long as he's within the borders of the village. And he was going to use it when the village was being uprooted, but he didn't get a chance because too much devastation had already been wrought. Regardless, we jettisoned back to the party, and we're going to fast forward a little bit because I had already mentioned that Shrek had come back and sort of bamboozled the party. The party had invited a bunch of orcs from the fort to come and protect them, to just kind of keep watch for the approaching party of Guan Yu and Huitzilopochtli, Karthikeya's counterparts, as well as Beater and Rex, Crust's brother. They were on their way from their hiding place in the mountains. And so they set up, they got this entourage of orcs, this security detail to make sure nothing crazy happened. But the orcs came out and started fawning over Keith Cruz, our bard, calling him the Kingslayer. They were asking him for lessons. They were asking to become his mentees, his apprentices, and they were like beating the shit out of each other to try and like vie for the spot. And Keith, of course, who's just like, he's got a wit that takes the edge off of everything. He's like, everybody needs to like shut the fuck up and calm down. I don't want this. I just happened to be the one who dealt the final blow to Kalesh, the Iron-Fisted King. And so that was really funny to role play. But fast forward, Shrek arrives using his illusion to feed his side of the story to Karthikeya's counterparts. They have a very tense conversation, which they ultimately elect to push the decision up the chain. They decide that they are going to the peace courts in Meridian. They're going to teleport there in the morning, and they're going to appeal to the Empress Netheria. but before they can do that, they have to go to bed for the first time in many sessions. And
been a long day, has it?
They have one hell of a dream sequence, buddy. A parallel dream sequence, in fact, to the one that they had shortly after meeting each other.
Is there no restful sleep?
Right. They're floating on these planks of wood with archways over top of them in a vast ocean. And they are separated from each other, just akin to floating on driftwood after a shipwreck. They have all their legendary relics, but Sly Honorlock, hears a voice in her head. She hears this premonition that she's been playing from audio that I ripped from Sherlock Holmes, the first one, not a Game of Shadows, the Guy Ritchie with Robert Downey Jr. Lord Blackwood saying 3 more will die and there's nothing you can do to save them. You must trust, or 3 more will die, there's nothing you can do to save them. And you're going to lose your mind I'm paraphrasing, you're going to lose your mind if you try and stop this. You have to accept your place in this. There will be nothing left of you if you try and stop this, because this is how the future is going to play out. But as she's hearing this message, she looks down and her eyes meet this disfigured little child. And the voices, which were many multi-layered, compress and isolate to this one little girl's voice. She's missing both of her eyes, just these black empty eye sockets with sprouts of hair out of her otherwise bald head, and missing teeth, and are limbs made of wood and steel and patchwork flesh. Horrible. This is Naomi's final attempt to scare them, to get some little revenge, because she knows that she has well and truly been bested. To appear to them in this dream, to use this one last scare tactic. And Sly's too strong. Sly's too stubborn. She taunts this little girl. She's truly merciless. She's cruel. And the last that they can see of Naomi is that she sinks down into the depths of the ocean, unable to die, because she herself is a god, left seemingly to drown forever. The last little bit of dream they get is that they see a great storm coming over the horizon and approaching a familiar island that they have really yet to acknowledge. They awake, and Kartikeya and Keith Cruz, who both cast Identify, to middling results on the apparatus used that was intended to be used to resurrect a god, to manifest a god back into a physical body.
That's an important piece of metal right there. Like
yeah, they both get these big lore dumps, and I chalk it up. It was my fault. At the end of the day, I chalk it up to the fact that I really didn't have a plan for if they cast Identify on things. Like I don't have these item cards. But they learn about a couple things. They learn about the Dark Six. They learn about the functions of the machines. And they learned that the purposes of these weapons were, in fact, being kept a secret, par for the course for Naomi. And that the only people that could be sacrificed to these machines were people that had come into contact with 2 or more of the Dark Six. Now, Keith Cruz has yet to share this information with the party. So I'm assuming Mac forgot, or I don't know. I kind of want to poke him about it.
It's sweet though. 2 or
it's
more.
Just
so you have to yeah, I flash back to Targonra's Morgus fees, remember?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to do with the way that the gods, the effect the gods have when they interact with the mortal plane directly.
Sure.
The results aren't always so ideal. But I'm running out of time. I really want to talk about behind the DM screen stuff. The last thing I'll say is that the party wakes up. They run an election in the Iron Tribe.
Oh, good old
popular
American democracy.
They, by popular vote, Harold, the aging orc, and a number of the king's elect, who is revealed were the ones closest to Kalesh and given his gifts because they knew the most about the conspiracy by which he had come to power. They renounced the former king and they were elected to rule. They were chosen leaders in a lot the same way that Crust was. And with that, the party teleports to Meridian to see how the future of the Warforged would shake out. Behind the screen, as far as this goes, it was fun, man. It was fun to have Shrek use his channel divinity to kind of appear, like make a copy of him appear over the horizon. The party's like, wait, Shrek's asleep right here. But Shrek's pretending to be asleep and using this one ability that doesn't require somatic or verbal components to sow misinformation and chaos. Really dastardly villain. And I'm so excited to tell everybody who watches how that ends up shaking out, because it has yet to end, but lots has happened. The election thing I should have planned out more. Like I was like, okay, well,
that's like a very American quote of you.
Yeah. No, it's very patriotic to kind of fly by the seat of my pants.
Should have planned out that election thing.
Crust walks in and he's like, oh, well, I guess everybody should try and pick somebody to be a part of the council. I guess I'll be a part of it, but I'll have to consult because I have to, move around. I'm in motion, And Crust, he's just like trying so hard. And he essentially just shunts this responsibility aside. Like he displaces it. He wants to travel with the party. He's already torn between Riverwood and the Iron Tribe.
Look, man, you're not going to get players who are like, well, we should set up some checks and balances, probably draft up a constitution, get a couple committees on board here. Like, we're going to need a big whip. We're going to need a minor. We're going to need people to talk.
Rest assured, the party takes some time in the coming sessions to kind of check back on the things that they have sort of set in motion in the world.
Is this stabilizing foreign tribes? Is that what we're going to call this in the official write-up?
You could totally call it that, dude. We're looking at a title there for the episode. Regardless, part of me wondered if Crust would try and unite the Iron Tribe and Riverwood, but tensions were high, especially because they were at war for like a while. Like several weeks. So probably a good call on Crust's part. What else do I want to discuss as far as behind the screens goes? The dream sequence was so fun. It felt so full circle. And it was that dream sequence was the end of the second arc. And the next morning when they woke up was the beginning of the third. It felt good. It felt good to transition very concretely. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not positive how the adoration of the orcs is going to manifest with Keith. Keith just knows that his charisma, like his insane charisma stats, and his he is this hero, anti-hero, Lone Ranger cowboy flying around on a unicorn Pegasus. There's no two ways about it. Like he's an icon to everyone. He wraps everyone that he wants to around his finger, whether they be royalty or warlords.
Takes after his father then, huh?
This is the consequence. Yeah. This is Keith, actually. Keith's dad was a farmer. His mom, actually, Keela Cruz, she had a history as an adventurer that I haven't quite fleshed out yet. But
look at that.
Rest assured, it's an illustrious one. So yeah, they all take after their parents.
From thin air. No, I know a couple people like that.
Our whole party are leaders, born leaders that would really rather not be. They really rather float through the world.
Would you call them the leaders and best? Just a function of where you found them, buddy.
Oh my God! For any of our listeners, this is a great time to transition to the post interview. For any of our listeners who don't go to U of M, which is who? I don't know. Maybe this is a sleeper, buddy. President Schlissel got fired in disgrace.
Old news.
Old news.
Older by the time I post this.
Speaking of leaders that were trounced, jettisoned. That was weird. There were all of his texts and emails with this woman lower down in the sort of chain of command in the U of M administration were leaked, and he's a cringy dude.
You trying to share a Knish?
Yeah, up there with the best of them. I'm hoping that this other lady that they replaced him with is gonna be cool. But honestly, far behind me, buddy. Yeah, in the rear view, rest assured. But because I live here, but rear view, man.
There's something I want to talk about for sure, which is I've thought it about your D&D worlds for a long time, and it's a tricky thing to elaborate, but we should give some language to it. It's the organization of societies. It's the organization of groups and the presence of hierarchies. Feels so exotic. Feels genuinely fantastical in Josadius. Like the way you describe things. And it made me look back upon the fact that all of my D&D worlds are basically governments, like established, comfortable, functioning governments with just varying levels of technology, right? But that's not really how governments work. So, what do you start with? Like, how do you decide how people are going to be organized? You've got these tree folk and these river folk, and you've got the Iron tribes, and you've got the Giant Kin and their organization, and you've got the Empire.
Yeah. The Imperial Palace, man. There's senators and cavalcade.
Of course there are. Full Rome, right?
Yeah. It's the part I just like, it's part and parcel to a place, right? Is there people who make sure that the place runs smoothly? Mm-hmm. Every time I think about New York City or see a video of somebody in New York City or like read about it, I'm always like, how the fuck does this place function? How is this place not constantly in flames? Like, how does anybody live in this place? I was really seriously thinking about relocating there for like a week solid. I was like, I'll just move to New York and hang out with Sanjay. I could never do it because the processes, the hyper complex processes that are so routinely maintained and strictly maintained that keep that place afloat, man, it doesn't even approach the complexity with which I have granted the Empire or the Great Spirit Forest, the Grand Diake, or Riverwood, or anything. Truly, man, the party was just like, we want to go to this place. And I was like, all right, I guess who's in charge? You know? Who are they gonna it's like Karen's walking into a Popeyes. I want to speak to the manager. That's what my party does. They walk into a city.
For the top. That's player shit, right? They don't want to meet the regional boss. They don't want to meet guard captain number 17. They want to meet the king.
I really don't want to half-ass that stuff, man. I really I mean, the politics with the Iron Tribe have been really tough. I'll go into that next session, but sure. The Empire is still gunning to exterminate the Iron Tribe, and so the party's going to have to smooth that over in no uncertain terms. They're orcs, man. That's the lot that orcs get in fantasy, is that they are a super oppressed group.
They're the big male, bulging muscle, like fierce. Power, rule of power sort of guys, might make right sort of, yeah, and they're all male. That's the orc.
And it's absolutely true in my world, but now Kalesh is dead. So what's left? You know, it's pretty crazy. I don't know. I the party knows that they have all this shit in motion in the world, and they're moving towards their own machinations, but soon the world is going to catch up to them, and I'm really excited for when it does. I'm trying to leave it up to them what they want to address, because at the end of the day, this is Arc 3, and I really want to send these people on their way. It's like you said, Jojo, the place that these people are in the story, they can't keep playing heroes. They can't keep playing.
It's just not sustainable.
Happy-go-lucky,
always be on the hinge.
Yeah, happy-go-lucky, irrational. Like, I just need to find my place in the world. These people, they've got family, they've got people groups, there's siblings and empires. Like, it's already one of the party has gone home as far as they know. They haven't stayed. to go and be with their family, to go and take care of their own.
If you're trying to role play
Kartikeya,
faithfully, that's gonna happen, right?
yeah, Kartikeya is like the last player whose aimlessness feels worth entertaining. And what the party finds at Site B, which I have yet to sort of get into, I think it's gonna shake their shit up, and I'm excited for it, man. I'm excited for it. But thank you, man. That's how I feel about. God, you had all this stuff. Two of my great regrets with Pragasphar. No, we didn't get to dig into the Mer people. We didn't get to dig into the Pickling Guild. It just like you had. I remember when on world building whatever days that weren't the ones where you met with Jim and Aiden before we had Ironlight, during our powwows, during our crit roll before we started filming.
Proto Ironlight,
home
like development
campaign,
days.
Proto Ironlight. You were like, yeah, there's gonna be these Mer people, this crazy library, and you can go in the library and come out in the Mer people's world. And I was like, that sounds so sick. We're gonna hang out with those Mer people so hard.
Turns out they've just been like they're in their NPC waiting places. They haven't started their walking routines because
they haven't loaded, right? They haven't rendered yet.
They're trading Belmont. They're like, why? We're not getting any of our marine resources. Like they've just been stuck. What the hell?
Oh man, I really hope Tiamat doesn't find her way underwater. You know,
it'll be the only place left, honestly, after the Earth has been torched.
The Pickling Guild in God, what was the city called near Dune Bay? I feel God.
Koyodin.
Koyodin, man. Koyodin was just
the coyote den.
There's never enough time. Jojo, I've been thinking about this lately. I remember one of my great insecurities about the campaign and how its vastness, Josadius's, was that I wasn't going to be able to tie up all the loose ends. And you were like, buddy, there are just things your party won't be interested in.
Yeah.
And I was like, but Jojo, what if my party at the end of the campaign, they're like, oh man, that was so great. So what happened with that one thing? And I won't have anything to tell them. All I'll be able to say is, I don't know. I guess you guys never really took an interest.
There's validity to that. Yeah.
I was so terrified for that to become a reality, but that's okay, man. Like, it's okay. You can let it go.
No, I think that's literally the only way to find out what your party's real interests are. Even if they allege that it's something else, even if they come together saying, this is the kind of person we are, this is the kind of game we want to run, you have to throw opportunities for other things in front of them. And the ones they don't take, it's not like, oh, geez, now I've got to run through this entire plot and play it out to its logical extreme, and what would happen if they weren't there, and how's that going to affect the world? No, it just doesn't happen. Like...
I started counting the maps I haven't used, counting the maps that I put so much work into but never ended up using, and all the plot hooks I threw at them. It's a bummer the amount of stuff that's going to be left over, but it's going to be fun to show them how much love and care I put into this campaign. I think
it's
an
occupational hazard,
impressed.
And there is glory, like you said, in the eventual reveal, but I gotta encourage you, man. Like it's wasted energy in the sense of improving your game. Seriously,
let it go, man.
You gotta see when those dead ends are coming up, and you gotta let the thread burn. Like
it's man, it's just a bummer with these cutscenes, man. It's just Well, I mean, life goes on. Life is a practice. Yeah. Well, Jojo, come on. What's the line you always slung at me? Hold on, hang on loosely. Hold on loosely. Never let go.
Hold on loosely, but don't let go. You know? Shout out the 38 special.
You're right, man. Josadius is a big world, and even if the map that I made isn't all the way filled out, these little people, these great swaths of civilization, I hope it comes into focus soon for the party. How important it all was, to me at least. Oh man, no bitterness, no blame towards the party. The things that they choose to become interested in are so good. I love thinking about the things that they're interested in. It's one of the sometimes it's one of the only things that keeps me from calling off the campaign and saying, God, you've just been going on too long. We're just rambling, because the shit that they're gonna find. But I digress. I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about Max and Baragon, Maxagon, if you will, Baramax.
Sure.
Which one
the
do you like
center
better?
of a lot of these episodes. He's really having his climactic moment right now in the campaign.
Do you like Baramax better or Maxagon?
Both really good. I'm feeling Maxagon. Feels like a shape.
Maxagon.
Shape with many sides.
This session that you just recapped, Maxagon and Neutral Jing. Now Max could have been like, but Cal, there is, or let me do a Maxagon impression. But Cal, there is nothing beyond that portal, because I saved your father, an angel. They're just there on the mountains, on a mountain ledge, on a precipice. And you're right, he could have sent it all the way home and really just taken advantage of Cal, but he didn't, because of what King Boomy said all those years ago, buddy. Neutral Jing. There are times where you do nothing, where you wait for the right moment. And part and parcel of Neutral Jing, just as we were discussing, Jojo, you gotta let the thread burn. Maxagon they're strategists. They are strategists. They see opportunities. They take some, they leave others behind. Max has never taken a step that I expected. He's never rolled the way that I expected. Max is no longer, I used to say, Baragon is a hero. He rolls like a hero. It's not that simple anymore, buddy.
Mm-mm.
He's a force of nature. It's terrifying to behold.
Delicately put. Yeah, if he'd told the truth from the get-go, he might not have gotten the duality. And if he'd lied about it, then you would have been in genuine opposition to him. Like, he would have made a move against you to get it. But by doing nothing, by just watching, gets his cake and eats it too. Like,
and Cal will never be the wiser. Like, I was thinking about it. I was like, should Cal roleplay being upset? No, because Baragon never mentioned it. He just let it go. It sailed by, and he might have waved at it as it did. At the ship's captain. Insane.
Your mouth's writing checks that your body can't cash, Baragon.
Oh my God. Oh well. No spoilers.
Yeah,
I want to talk about little resentments that I have towards you, Jojo.
Oh, this one has come tumbling out.
I'm speaking directly to the audience now. Jojo gutted the charisma stat in Pragasphar. And so when Cal had to make that deception check to lie to Baragon, to sort of play that little game where he speaks to Patch in Patch's head for just a moment, he couldn't roll for shit. He rolled like a 9. And I was like, Cal should have rolled way higher. He's a diplomat. But and in all joking aside, Jojo, Cal was never a liar. Cal never had to. Cal came to people who dodged the truth and encouraged them to embrace it. That was his occupation. That was his job for decades. That was what they trained him to do in the Trollwire Expanse, man, in the Stock of Reverie. Like, you can't have peace without truth. And truth, let me be the first to say, well, there's caveats, right? Naive of me to reduce it to such. There's caveats, because truth changes, right? There's no objective truth. Truth is different for Jojo and I. Truth from the truth that is from the truth that is for Ann Arbor, from the truth that is for Midland, from the truth that is for Michigan, from the truth that is for the United States, from the truth that is for the FBI. Baragon and Cal have a different truth, a starkly different one from Patch and Cal. And trying to reconcile that's not really mud that Cal has really had to dig into before. It was uncomfortable, and it went as well as it should have, which was badly.
It went as well as it should have. I agree profoundly.
Yeah. So that aside, clerics and monks are only supposed to have good dex and wisdom anyway. So, like, what the fuck would I have been doing giving him all that charisma? I would have been gutting myself. You know, I would have been making Cal maybe a little bit less useful. And as a as a healer tank these days, Cal's job is to keep people alive. It always was. So
He fills the
Cal-
role. It's a good look.
lately,
Take that out in post.
Cal lately, or actually not so lately, because I remember Cal telling Patch how much faith he had about things working out. Cal for many years did a lot of thinking about the South River Massacre, and he spent a lot of time being pretty grateful for Cure Wounds and Healing Word. That's always been true, man. It's always been true.
It's crazy. There were very, very, very few elements of Pragasphar that existed outside of the actual in-game experience of the party that had a bearing over the party. I would go as far as to say there are a handful. You could count on a hand the number of events that the party didn't experience in game that had any influence over where you are in the game now. So that's just me and my style. It has its ups and it has its real downs. Like, I didn't put a lot of work into the campaign that didn't come to fruition. You guys got to be super relevant in the world, but at the same time, there are a lot of dimensions that I never got to see it out to. The Crestholm people and the like indigenous versus the people of Belamon like conflict. I had strong feelings about the emotional stakes of that plot, and it just never came up. I pushed it the first 5, 6, 7 sessions and it withered. Politics within Belamon, politics broadly, right? Like a lot of that stuff just never came to, which is okay, but you know.
I'm gonna cut you off, Jojo. The Crestholm, speaking of Baragon, about his status as the equivalent Kwisatz Haderach of their civilization. It was a premonition. It was a premonition, buddy. It was a prophecy. Yeah. The warrior poet, the king.
Episode 2, he challenges the leader of a local tribe to single combat and loses. Like, oh my god. And all right.
The Crestholm, that dude had his way with Baragon.
Yeah, I know. Just threw him around like a rag doll, man.
He put him to sleep. He got him a body bag.
Get him a body.
You know.
Okay. You're referencing Dune and Cobra Kai in the span of about 60 seconds.
I know how to tug on those heartstrings, buddy. I know how to push those buttons.
You're playing me like a fit. What do you want? You got it. What do you want? Say it.
In unrelated news, I have just finished budgeting for. I've just finished budgeting as closely as I possibly can for July for our trip down Route 66.
Spectacular.
I crunched all the numbers. I counted all the school days that I have left. It's happening, man. It's nearing closer. So all this to say, hopefully I'm earning some good karma for that second and a half, that point in the second and a half week of travel when you're like, I can't fucking stand this guy. Why did I send you this?
Shout out to the
We're in Nevada.
Shout out to the Iron Headlight Roadshow when the two of us had Southwest at a blistering
oh my god,
55 to
write
65
that down before
per hour.
somebody takes it, man. Iron Headlight Roadshow, man. We gotta get some bumper stickers made, man.
Yeah, my mom will do it. She's all about
Oh man, dude. Oh man. Yeah. With Pragasphar and Josadius alike, we got these people who lead, who want to lead. We got these people who really would rather not, and we got these people who are grateful to not be a part of the equation at all. At a certain point, the people who don't have power and want power are weeded out. It's because it's a tricky thing to watch power happen. It's a scary thing, man. I'm reading Dune right now, and it's getting hot and heavy. I am getting into Mr. Robot lately, USA show, Rami Malek. Crazy shit, man. Hacker show, evil conglomerates, debt.
Haven't seen that one.
crazy one, man. I don't know. It's weird, and it's not usually my speed. And I'm still I'm compelled, I'm gripped, enthralled, but I'm anxious, I'm apprehensive.
Love is what you want, dude.
Yeah, love is what you want. Love is what you want. What's going on in your? Oh, we were talking about poetry before the show, buddy. Plug some stuff. Plug Emily Dickinson's estate.
Emily Dickinson's current estate is keeping my laptop at a semi-level station. It's on a tilted surface, but for her many volumes of florid poetry. Game changer. Emily Dickinson, my favorite poetess of all time. The GOAT, I would esteem is to call her. The New England Mystic was her title. That was like how she has been referred to. Every poet has like their fun slang term. Whitman's the good gray poet, and Emily Dickinson, blessed be thy name, is the New England Mystic. The person with whom I feel like I have communicated the most over the annals of time. Like with the least actual contact. And an emotional center for myself, for Pragasphar, and for everything I will ever create.
It's a revolution, man. She's the poetess. She's the cosmic power for you. You made your own god, and you believe in the poetry.
Genuinely.
Little euphoria for the kids.
Euphoria for the kids. No, the kids will graduate from euphoria. There's too many white people and not enough justification for action there. But no, seriously, Wallace Stevens called it a supreme fiction. He says everyone needs to find their supreme fiction, which is their replacement for God. He says God won't do. You need to find your own. You need to find your supreme fiction.
Wallace Stevens and supreme fiction.
Oh yeah. That's it.
I'm jotting it down.
Worth a Google, guys. Worth an absolute Google.
This pen has been going out, dude. It's like this pen has ED, like a rectangle. Like it's not every 25 minutes this thing goes out. I'm just trying to write down Wallace Stevens and supreme fiction. Can I just do that? I have to devolve to lead in a mechanical pencil.
Or I can just whisper it in your ear while you sleep and try to influence your dreams over the course of July. It's probably easier than
cast dream on me.
Oh, hey.
Nightmares.
That's how you had to do it back in my day. You know, these kids these days can just cast their spells. You had to stealth next to the person's ear and whisper, "Eat your soup, eat your soup," if you wanted them to have dreams about an evil Russian nun forcing them into dinner.
That's dumb, homie. We got 60 seconds, and I've got one last thing to say before we close her up. I saw the Batman with Robert Pattinson twice over the last couple weeks.
I just saw it last night.
Oh, dude, I want to hear your thoughts post show. If we had a Patreon, we'd put the Batman debrief on it, but we don't.
You guys just don't get that. Move on. Moral of the story.
It's phenomenal. It was so inspiring, and Brains and Bots, look out, because there won't be any masked vigilantes, but there might be some noir, there might be some darkness, there might be some shadows. So, man, good stuff lately. Really good, solid stuff lately. Jojo?
So long.
Ooh.